Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Saturday. Let's talk about Loki and the snake task that he has sent me on. A few months ago, I shared that Loki had been nudging me to deal with the phobia I have of snakes, despite my resistance on this topic. So, lest anyone get the impression through this video series that Loki is a softie and he just lets his devotees get away with things and opting out of instruction just because they feel like it, let me assure you that is not the case. This has been an ongoing issue, and it seems to be coming to a head. For about a solid 2 months, about every time I close my eyes to fall asleep, my thoughts turn to snakes, or I start seeing snakes in my mind's eye. I'm just taking this as a sign that Loki's patience with me on this particular issue is beginning to wear thin. So it's time to deal with this head on, and I would rather choose my manner of dealing with this than suddenly find myself crossing paths with every snake that I happen to find every time that I step outside. Now, granted, it is getting chilly, and at the time of this recording, it's October, so you would think I would be fairly safe from that. But we do still have warm days, and the snakes could be lurking around, and I'm not looking for that kind of surprise. I'm just not. And, just in fairness, it is true that part of the deal that when you become pagan, and even more so if you actually become a practitioner of the craft, it's necessary to face your fears, to heal internal wounds, and work at becoming a better person. That's essentially the great purpose of pagan spirituality. So, as a first step, what I've started doing is watching a YouTube channel called Snake Discovery. The people who run it appear to have a zoo full of reptiles, most of which is filled with snakes. And the first video I watched with them was focused on them hatching snakes that they've bred. Yes, they're breeding snakes on purpose. Okie dokie. So in the video, one morning, the lady was dashing to the snake incubator. She was just filled with glee, and she was chanting, babies, babies, babies in this really deranged way. And then she was absolutely over the moon when she saw that a few of the eggs had started to hatch, and she was cooing over them the way that I would coo over kittens. So my theory is that if I can figure out what she finds lovable about these squiggly things, then maybe I can get past the irrational aspect of my fears. It's always going to be sensible to exercise caution around snakes. I mean, there are species that are venomous, and when you just happen upon them, you don't immediately distinguish the dangerous from the non-dangerous, at least not at first glance. But if I can calm down and be less hysterical about them, perhaps that will constitute progress, satisfy Loki, and we can move on to something else. But it has also occurred to me that perhaps I'm taking this push to investigate snakes a bit too literally. Maybe it's not completely about conquering irrational fears. And the reason I say this is because the first animal spirit I ever contacted was a snake. Loki's son, Jormungandr, is a serpent. And during the story of the binding of Loki, a serpent was suspended above him. So when I think about these things and the role that these snakes have played, in my spiritual journey, I have to ask, is this investigation about learning how to overcome restriction? Is it about growth and transformation? Is it about coming to terms with aspects of myself that I'm uncomfortable with and that I've tried to push away as being somehow alien to my nature when they're a part of me? But the moment I started going down this train of thought, I just felt something click. I feel very strongly that even if part of this is just about getting past a phobia, that there are more layers to it, deeper and more important layers. So at this point, I do think that as far as what is the other meaning of the snake and why am I supposed to look into is my instinct is that this is about transformation. That's at the root of it. But it still leaves the question of what kind of transformation. Is it about being less fearful? Is this about a process of shedding the old, like, an old snake scale skin, leaving behind things about belong in previous chapters of my life that have nothing to do with the present and aren't going to be shaping the future? Is it about changing enough to take the next step in the journey? I don't know. But in an effort to find out, tonight I am going to do a meditation with Loki. I'm going to explore this further. I'm also going to invite the snake spirit into that space, and I'm just going to see what happens. I think it's time to get into the nitty-gritty. So if you're interested in how this goes, stay tuned and just see how this journey progresses. But now let me know what your own experience have been, if you have also happen to work with Loki? Has he taken you into uncomfortable waters, and with what effects? How are things going with that? If you want to commiserate, trade ward stories, I would be happy to do that with you. Tell me all about it in the comments section below, or even better, come see me on Gilded. There's a link to join us in the description box. Click on it. It will take you to the server. The server is named Blackbird's Brew, and we can start a conversation about this. It's always nice to compare notes with people who you also share a deity with. So, come and tell me all about it. Let's see if we can figure a few things out. But that'll do it for this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.